Hey YouTube, so it's Priscilla. I am back again with another episode. This is still from the wonderful book, Women Who Run with the Wolves. Women Who Run with the Wolves. And this time I'll be discussing chapter 3. So chapter 3, it says, nosing out the facts, the retrieval of intuition as an initiation. All right. So the doll in her pocket, Vasilia the Wise. All right. So this story is about a young girl who loses her mom. It's similar to a Cinderella story. She loses her mom at a young age, and while the mom's on her deathbed, she hands her daughter a doll. And this doll represents the passing of wisdom. This daughter, she has a father. Her father still lives. But as we can tell in the story, his intuition is quite weak. Because he ends up marrying a woman who cannot stand his daughter. And her two daughters cannot stand his daughter. And they actually come up with a plot to have this girl, to have her life end so that they can just live in the house with the dad. So his intuition is compromised. The little girl, she's stuck in a naive world. And so in this story, the writer, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, she's talking about the too good mother. And so that's a mother who would do too much for the child. So this child has had everything done for her, down to cooking for her, cleaning, thinking for her, everything, to where the child is just very underdeveloped, and extremely nice because she had no reason not to be nice. So let's try to get into the story, or let's get into the story. So the first part of the story that struck me, she had no idea what the stepmom was plotting against her. And so the stepmom has sent her off to go get some fire for them. So the stepmom put out the fire in the house and told Vasilia, go to this home and get fire for the house. And that's because they were almost certain that Vasilia would be, murdered on her way to or from this journey. While she was on the journey, she met an amazing grandma called Baba Yaga. And it was there that Baba Yaga taught her the lessons that she needed to know. Taught her how to separate, what was that? Sesames? Taught her how to separate poppy seeds from dirt. Just that finite, super tiny thing. How to separate mildewed corn from good corn. How to sweep, how to clean, how to cook. All of these necessary things that a woman needs to know in order to be self-sufficient, that a woman would need to know so that she can determine what's going to keep her healthy, what's going to sustain her life, what's a medicine, what's a poison. So she got this boot camp type of lesson from Baba Yaga. And it was a terrifying journey, and she learned to ask questions. The thing is, the mom had given Vasilia a doll, and it was this doll that the mom said, you must feed the doll, you must take care of the doll, and the doll will guide you. And that it did. She shared all her worries with the doll, and the doll guided her. So as she began to ask questions of Baba Yaga, the doll would prompt her, or if the doll jumped up and down fast in her pocket, she would know to stop. And so she was learning discernment, that's why I find these stories so awesome because they need to be read and they need to be discussed with younger children just to see where they are. And then the second read, they'll see another layer of the story. The third read, even another layer of the story. So I feel like every family should be reading some kind of story to their children at night. So the first quote that I want to start with is actually on page 80. Okay, well, the first thing I want to talk about on 80. So as I shared a moment ago, Visalia is a story of handing down the blessings on women. It's the power of intuition from mother to daughter, from one generation to the next. So that's what this story is covering. And it talks about how the too good mother must die in order for the woman to grow. So it's that side of her, that over nurturing, in order for the daughter to grow, mature, develop, accept and nurture her wildish side, the overly nurturing side of the mother must be put to death. Okay, so too good means doing too much. It means thinking for the child, cleaning for the child, shopping for the child, cooking, doing things the child must learn to do. It is in this passing that the child learns, with support and guidance, to do for herself and trust that she can. So those were some notes that I wrote down for myself. On page 81, like I share, on the mom's deathbed is when she gave the daughter the doll. And what we see that is the doll is what's helping her to develop her own consciousness about danger, about intrigue. I mean, because that's pretty bold to go off on this journey alone. Why didn't all three girls go? Where the heck is dad that he would say yes to this or be okay with this? Why? The fact that she didn't even question it. She just knew to follow authority. And it just seems like, wow, poor baby. So page 83. So page 83 talks about how we can use the story to help us to set goals, and how taking risks helps to build our power. And I don't know if you can tell, I'm quite excited about this story because I do like I love stories like this. They excite me, they just do. All right, so I wanted to read 87, and it says, for instance, women who are raised in families that are not accepting of their gifts often set out on tremendously big quests over and over, and they do not know why. They feel they must have 3 PhDs, or that they have to hang upside down from Mount Everest, or that they must execute all manner of dangerous, time-consuming, and money-eating endeavors to try to prove to their families that they have worth. This one is pretty deep, and it certainly hits home. I can't tell you how many times or how many ideas I've pursued, and I do realize I was looking for validation from outside people, but I wasn't sticking to a lot of it. And then one day it clicked. It's like I was thinking, well, who are you trying to earn this PhD for? Who are you trying to impress? Because there came a point where it didn't mean anything to me. I mean, yeah, at one point I wanted the title doctor in front of my name. And then at one point, it didn't mean so much to me anymore because I didn't need people to give me that. I didn't need for people to give it to me. And it's so interesting because maybe like a year ago, I had a coworker who finished her PhD program. And it was so strange. She was so insistent that people now call her doctor, even though we had been so used to saying miss this, miss that. And she would stop you cold and say doctor this, doctor that. It was so jarring. No one meant to disrespect her, but it's strange to then have someone insist that you use their new title or don't acknowledge them at all. And so that was a strange thing. But I mean, I understand she worked hard, she earned it, but I still felt like she needed to give people time to learn it, you know? Okay, another portion that I've highlighted. We can see that for the deep work to continue, trying to prove one's worth to the chorus of jealous hags is pointless. And as we shall see, in fact, impedes the initiation. And I feel like the reason that it impedes the initiation is because your focus is divided. If your focus is upon what your goal is, this goal that you want to push past, that you want deep down in your soul, then you're going to grow from the inside out. You're going to flourish. You're going to exude just this amazingness because you will radiate from that level of joy and happiness. However, if you're only doing this to try to appease jealous people you don't even realize they're jealous, like you don't realize that the angry daggers they're sending towards you is simply jealousy. If you're trying to please them, then you're not giving the energy towards what you need to do to please yourself. You know, you're getting distracted. You know, it's like you've been derailed. Being bound to one, Vasalia's mother has set an enormous boon on her by binding the doll and Vasalia to one another. Being bound to one's intuition promotes a confident reliance on it, no matter what. It changes a woman's guiding attitude from what will be to let me see all there is to see. What does this wildest intuition do for woman? Like the wolf, intuition has claws that pry things open and pin things down. It has eyes that can see through the shields of persona. It has ears that can hear beyond the range of mundane human hearing. And we talked about that earlier on. I want to say that was in either the introduction or chapter 1, how the underdeveloped person can only hear the mundane conversations, while the person who has their second hearing, they can hear things like suggesting art to create, music to sing that's going to stir not only their soul but other people's souls. And the people who have that third level of hearing, they're going to even hear from their spirit, their higher source, just helping to guide them on their path to self-discovery, on their path to mastery. So these 3 levels of hearing are coming up again. So let me start back from the beginning. What does this wildest intuition do for woman? Like the wolf, intuition has claws that pry things open and pin things down. It has eyes that can see through the shields of persona. It has ears that hear beyond the range of mundane hearing. With these formidable psychic tools, a woman takes on a shrewd and even precognitive animal consciousness. Wow. One that deepens her femininity and sharpens her ability to move confidently in the outer world. And that makes sense, because if you are living within the space that your spirit has called you to live in, and you know that you're hearing on a deeper level and that you're in tune with it, your stride is going to change. I think we've all seen that man or that woman who stand in their strength and we're impressed, who walk with a stride versus the person who walks with a slump, or walks looking down. Like, you can see the confidence from a mile away, and it's exciting to see, to notice. So over at page 90. So page 90 is talking to us, or it's guiding us and letting us know how you feed the intuition. We feed our intuition by listening to it. We feed our intuition by listening to it. That's deep, because we're learning to trust it. When you doubt your intuition and you don't use it, it's like it's going to atrophy like a muscle. If you're forced to lay in your bed and you don't get out of it for months at a time, your system starts to turn into something else. It's not as strong as it once was because you are just in that static state. And so what Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes is saying, that the intuition is the same way. If you don't take time to feed it by listening to it, then it's going to atrophy. That's why people are in doubt and they question their intuition, because they haven't taken the time to feed it, to grow it, to trust it, to know it. And we have to make sure to respect it and honor it. No one else's intuition should have more of an honor over our own. We're two separate beings living two separate paths. We all have our own path. So you shouldn't honor someone else's insight over yours. Obviously, advice is a good thing. You share that advice with your spirit and you give yourself time to meditate so that you can then answer the question. All right, let's look at page 91. So the bottom of 91 till the top of 92. It says, Vasalya began with what might call a flattened out, mundane personality. Vasalya began with what we might call a flattened out, mundane personality. It is just this hyper normalcy that creeps up on us till we have a routine life and a lifeless life. Hyper normalcy that creeps up on us till we have a routine life and a lifeless life without our really meaning to. So meaning our intention wasn't to have this lifeless life, but we do have it. This encourages the neglect of intuition. So that normal routine of a life encourages the neglect of intuition, which in turn produces lack of light in the psyche. We must do something then. We must set out into the woods, go find the scary woman, or else one day as we are nodding down the street, a manhole cover will snap open and whoosh, we'll be snatched by some unconscious thing that will throw us about like a rag, joyously or otherwise, mostly otherwise, for a good outcome. Okay, so I know I didn't read that so well, not as theatrical as I had hoped, but what I'm gathering from it, this normal routine of a life, it kind of blinds us to the more serious events. So because we're not as aware of our surroundings, we're not getting the vibe or the feel of them, we'll walk into things that we should have been looking for. Like we won't hear the heat or the warning to stop because we're in this, I guess it's kind of like this, we're desensitized. All right, let's look over at page 96. So what I like about 96, she is sharing about what a wise woman does. The goal should be to be a wise woman. I had always ascribed wisdom to much older women, but there is no reason why a young person can't be wise. You know, it took me a while to see myself as wise, but I certainly believe there can be teenagers who can be quite wise, but you know, not jaded like they're little old people trapped in young bodies, but they're wise and also happy, you know. Because that's the funny thing about this story. It talks about how a person can know so much information that they grow old in their mind too soon, you know. So you still want to have that youthful excitement about life, but still have that knowing about life. Okay, so what she's saying, that if you're a wise woman, you're going to keep your psychic environment uncluttered. That's your goal. You want to seek wisdom, and to achieve wisdom, your psychic environment must be uncluttered. All right, let me share with you something from 98. My home is super cold right now, so that if my cheeks are getting redder, it's because this room is crazy cold. Okay, so on page 98, women's cycles according to Vasalya's tasks are these: to cleanse one's thinking, renew one's values on a regular basis, to clear one's psyche of trivia, sweep oneself, clean up one's thinking and feeling states on a regular basis. So she doesn't mean once a year, once a month, once a week, on a regular basis. To build creative fire and cook up ideas on a systematic basis, and especially to cook up a lot. And cook not food, but ideas. You have to stoke that fire with knowledge. To feed the relationship between oneself and the wildish nature. So if we hope to grow, not only do we have to clean up, but we have to feed it our thoughts, our desires, our ideas, knowledge, information, but clear the debris out, because new debris is going to come in. It'll come in when we hear a song. Okay, that song doesn't fit what I'm trying to become. That show doesn't fit what I'm trying to become. This idea doesn't fit what I'm trying to become. Clear all that clutter out, like a regular routine. Like some people, if you go to church once a week, it's that same thing with your intuition. You need to take yourself to your spiritual church also. And actually, to me, going to the physical church once a week shouldn't be enough. I mean, I know some people go twice a week for Bible study and for Sunday worship, but you also, to yourself, need to time alone, just not the group service. You need time alone for yourself to be developing. All right, I want to turn now to page 100. All right, this is near the bottom of 100. And this is talking about how Baba Yaga has Vasalya separate all the different things, the poppy seed from dirt, the corn, the mildewed corn from the fresh corn. All these elements and tasks are teaching Vasalya about the life, death, life, nature, the give and take of caring for the wild nature. Sometimes in order to bring a woman closer to the life, death, life, nature, I ask her to keep a garden. Let this be a psychic one, or one with mud, dirt, green, and all the things that surround and help and assail. Let it represent the wild psyche. The garden is a concrete connection to life and death. You could even say there is a religion of garden, for it teaches profound psychological and spiritual lessons. Whatever can happen to a garden can happen to a soul and a psyche. Too much water, too little water, bugs, heat, storm, flood, invasions, miracles, dying back, coming back, boom, healing. The garden is a meditation practice. So I've shared before in other videos that meditation, for some reason I was just struggling to meditate. But I had never seen gardening as a form of meditation, or I didn't make the connection. I did feel quite, I'm sorry I keep looking in the lens, apology. I did feel quite spiritual, or I do feel quite spiritual when I do garden and I'm able to grow something and I'm able to figure out how to naturally get bugs not to invade. So for instance, this was about a year ago. I was growing kale in my backyard. And then all of a sudden, all these bugs came out of nowhere and it was freaking me out. So I talked to the gardener at my job. So in my high school, we have a garden class. And in talking to the people there, they said that they grow their kale with garlic. So since I had to work backwards, I got all this fresh garlic, ground it up, and then just kept putting more and more garlic in the soil every day. And eventually they stopped overpowering my kale, because it didn't make sense for me to put chemicals in the kale. Like, that seems absurd. But to put garlic, then it had this wonderful garlic taste, which I love. And so anyway, I know I got sidetracked. But you start to see how you even treat yourself. If you have this garden that you begin to neglect, that you just let die, or this garden that you take care of, you talk to the leaves, you nourish the leaves, you leave time to plant new seeds, you leave a portion of the bed for that, you leave a portion of the bed to re-nourish or replenish. I mean, it's pretty deep. And I believe that's why Clarissa says, you know, in this move towards growing in your intuition, that you should use gardening as a form of meditation. But she adds to that, keep a diary, keep a daily diary of what you notice and your interactions. It is such a spiritual thing, especially if you're taking time to look at it as a spiritual and nourishing thing. And back when she was in the book, when she was talking about Baba Yaga and how, you know, Baba Yaga had Vasalya separate the, you know, the different things, she said in learning that, the part of it was also for Vasalya to learn the difference between real love and fake love. I didn't 100% get that, but then I guess if you're able to distinguish these similar things, then, and you're growing in your spirit, then you'll be able to distinguish this honest being who is probably just appealing to your carnal side or your financial side or your spiritual side. So I found that interesting. All right, now turn with me to page 111.